myself a lover. My name is Samora. I am 27 years of age. I use she, her pronouns, born and raised West Auckland, and now have the privilege of working for Auckland Sexual Health Services as a health promoter. In all honesty, no. Honestly, it was not a, with my parents, as strict as they were, as churchy as they were, time was never provided. I guess for me, even when I came out, as my authentic self, even on the dinner table, like the appetite had gone for everyone, like that was the awkwardness back then. However, what I learned was you have to allow a certain time and a certain place to talanoa about these things, whether it is identity, whether it is sexual health, whether it is sexuality or anything that covers under the sexual health umbrella. For me growing up, I chose not to include my parents in some conversations because I could see how much, not only of the risks for myself, but I could see they needed to transition their mindset as well. So, of course, as islanders, we have this understanding, there's a lot of pride. There's a lot of that, I guess, that cloud of pride that, every family wants to be perfect, or every parent wants their children or their child to have a perfect way of being. And it can be so easy for a lot of parents, or like in general, just to say it never existed or deny it. However, I feel like, times are changing. Parents are being welcomed into the space, being able to have, even, I guess, parents that are new parents or with newborns. There's time now for parents to consider, and only an observation of everything that's happening around us with a lot of possibilities, a lot of opportunities being presented, especially in sexual health, and also language is changing. So people like myself, we're able to explain ourselves in the most respectful way, in the most diverse context. I think it's beautiful to see that today. But thinking back, the topic was not a topic, and even choosing a time, whether it was during when you eat, when you have your me'ai, or even after loku, like it wasn't welcomed at that time, because I knew my parents and they were just real black and white. But it did allow them to consider nowadays, like, oh, I should have done something, but Absolutely. Even like I asked myself, like, how can we utilize our own Samoan language within these kind of contexts? Even just asking my mum, what's the Samoan word for condom? And she just said condom. So a Samoan language week with the Samoan word whiuswainga. It's not common, like in Talanoa, in certain spaces. It may like depict or, like a whole meaning around the whole glossary of terms. But when it comes to having a conversation about it, sometimes the language doesn't link up. That's a really good question, because in all honesty, there are some homes that can be safe, and then you have to have an open eye to the fact that there are some unsafe spaces or unsafe homes, even within our Pasifika families. And even I admit, like my own house was an unsafe space in terms of like feeling belittled, like, just around certain topics, even just me, so being openly trans or being openly whakawhine. There are possibilities, however, it's how our parents, or it's how the ones that run our houses, it's how they look after it and control those conversations. Like how I mentioned, when I think back to bringing up something like my sexuality or like sex in general, you always have to understand there's a time and place. And that all ties in with the enhancement of technology and Wi-Fi available. Me growing up as a teenager, it was the modem. You plug it into the computer, and if you didn't have a computer, you use the library. But with the accessibility around technology, yes, of course, the internet is your prime source where a lot of our young people, even as young as like 9 or 10, have that free access to porn. But then I also want to mention even just how a lot of young people do objectify themselves through ways of Snapchat, through ways of any social media platform. That all contributes, You've got porn, which is your, a whole world. But then even with the use of social media where, excuse my French, a dick pic is so easily, it's just so channeled. And yet there are certain spaces where there is some censorship. However, I mean, we're living in a time now where catfishing is just beyond, like the risk is so high. However, our young people need so much support around, even just those who do put their bodies on the line, who do put themselves in such a space where they're not aware of how much they're getting exploited or how much they're exploiting themselves. I think back to how our parents shelter us growing up from a lot of what is out there in the world, and of course things like porn, things that involve sex or of such a sexual manner or pleasure. Our parents keep us from even being aware of what's around us or being exposed to what's out there. And I can say that can be a negative approach, that from a lot of our youth not being able to explore themselves, but then also understanding, like for a lot of our parents, sex is a sin before marriage, which was drilled down our throats growing up. And if you were, I guess, playing around, that's in our whole culture, that's forbidden. But the whole negativity around it is not allowing children to step out or explore. However, there's that protective factor with keeping kids from knowing is what is out there. One example would be my mom, even me jumping on hormonal treatment, and her whole understanding, a lot of our island parents have a limited understanding, which I fully understand. She straight away just assumed that I was going through black market based on, I guess, something she may have watched in the 70s, or maybe just like oral chats with whoever, and me educating her or actually telling her like, no, this is government funded, no, this is like safe at Green Lane Hospital. Like mum didn't know that, and then I can understand how so many parents wouldn't have that kind of information around what is actually out there and what is safe for our communities. And then when you talk about sexual health stuff, a lot of our island parents just have no information, as opposed to they've got all the information. they have nothing whatsoever. There are spaces provided for young people. However, the gap is for our parents, where they can't feel, which, for my parents, they didn't know anyone they could have those conversations with. It was either their own siblings or their parents or the minister. However, in terms of professional support, there are people out there that can support our parents to enable a healthy home environment where topics are not awkward, where topics can actually have its flow on, especially for our teenagers, where a lot of things could be happening, sex could be happening with some teenagers, puberty, it all adds up. However, support is available for parents in whatever form that might look like, whether that is having a conversation. The conversation that has been around, it's just a matter of getting our families to talk about these things, have more opportunities to talk about these things, whether it is a workshop, whether it is a whānau or a hui. I believe, that's the way forward in order to address unsafe homes in whatever form that might look like. But healthy conversations, you need to consult in order to have a real conversation with your child, because that's the only way. And it can be unlucky if you get even just the wrong advice from, say for example, a youth leader or someone, or an uncle who's just not for that kind of lifestyle. But yeah, I'd recommend to parents, consult, have a conversation even if your child is going through something or coming out or maybe sexually active. There ain't no shame in that. Love that. I will talk about HIV/AIDS. And for me personally, like honestly, when parents ask, it's so nice you're working within the space, you're experienced. And I'm like, experienced? I've never had AIDS. I've never had HIV. But, you know, when we talk about myths, like for a lot of our whakawhāwhine, generation prior, you know, who have I guess struggled a little bit more in terms of society or in their spaces. They did the hard yards, but with today, from what they've produced and the results and the outcomes from their time, there are resources now available. There are, I guess, more services now available that can support our youth to even eliminate the whole sexually transmitted infection like HIV/AIDS. Not as much, even throughout our Pacific history. You know, we've got a strong representation in our feminine community, or you know, the whakawhāwhine community, the whakaleiti community, and that's been strong and apparent. However, having the conversation, or you know, allowing spaces to have those meaningful conversations that, you know, there is actually more than those certain identities. And even just thinking back, you know, the whakawhāwhine term, it encompasses everyone, like, you know, all those that identify as, I guess, trans, or those that identify as gay. But living in this New Zealand context, or in this Pākehā framing, it allows us to go deeper, where I feel like our culture, or our people, we have the utmost ability to explore what that might look like, what fluidity looks like within our Pacific families, and just, I guess, breaking norms where, like, if you're married, you know, that doesn't mean you're polyamorous, but breaking those norms around, okay, marriage may not be the thing for a lot of people, and if they divorce, they divorce, but also providing light for people who, you know, do leave like a 20-year relationship, and then when someone's like, oh yeah, I heard he's gay, oh I heard they're transitioning, or you know, it's being able to affy those conversations and be like, yep, no, they're doing them, but however, you know, the stigma or the shame on that shouldn't have to be what's the word, magnified?